Hey, so I'm excited to talk about your Enneagram. What what are you bringing that you maybe want to start with?
Yeah, so I have that PDF open on the
Mhm.
side, so that's what I'm looking.
Perfect.
How I really resonated with a lot of what was in the report.
Hmm.
And I told you about the first time I took the test, not through this assessment, and then I got the different types,
Yeah.
and then how it was like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Yep. Mm-hmm. But then it was like kind of ended there. And part of the reason why I probably didn't get into the whole Enneagram.
Sure.
Um, but reading this report, it's like, yeah, like in in a way that's like, yeah, I can see that as a strength. And then also like, yeah, that's why I act the way I do, or like, that kind of little bit of a ouch. Uh,
Yeah.
and then also looking back at my youth.
Mhm.
And I can see how that might be like a really pleasant, no, like really there, especially around like seeking pleasures over indulgence, things like that. Like that
Mhm.
was definitely like my coping mechanism to
Sure.
escape from pain. So like even
Yeah.
all of that making sense. Uh,
Yeah.
and then
What pain, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So a lot of resonance there, yeah.
Yeah. Good. Good. Well, I know there were components of the previous, the 1 and the 2 that were a little bit of a match, and we talked through that a little bit. But I'm glad that 7 feels like a fit for you.
Yeah, and it was interesting because in the beginning, because I thought that I was split between 1 and 2,
Mhm.
it felt like a whiplash, like, "What? I'm 7 now? What?
Yeah.
I can't what happened? What happened to 1 and 2?" And then there is a part of me, I think, especially, like, on the first day,
Mhm.
that I was, like, rejecting it a little bit,
Of
but
this report?
right.
Okay.
But then it's almost like weird attachment to, like, 1.
Oh,
While
yeah.
at the same time, it's like reading it through, it feels resonant, and then also some of the ones that's like, yeah, totally not me. So
Mhm.
it's like I was in this like a little bit of a confused stage
Sure.
as I marinated in it. And then I also looked up like a couple of other Enneagram books,
Mhm. Mhm.
not a serious one, but like a fun one, or
Of
like
course, 7, hello.
watching some of like the funny like YouTube videos, like
Yeah, exactly. That's seven's
it's like
favorite way to learn. Yeah.
yeah, so I was like, "Yep, yep," and then I just kind of, like, slowly stepped into, "Yeah, I think I am pretty sure
Okay.
I'm 7."
Yeah. Well, just even the fit and, like, kind of the uncomfortable my best friend calls it, like, fig leaf when you're like, "Ooh, that's kinda vulnerable and, like, a little bit uncomfortable." What I'll say, though, is that, with 7, you have aligned to 1, so there are those 1 behaviors within you. They're just not necessarily your prominent. They may come out either at your best or when under stress or both.
Yeah,
And then your what they call tri-type, you did score as your feeling style too. So like the 1 and 2 clocked in, but when we looked at your breakdown, the 1 was the lowest. So I
mm,
almost wonder for you, it may even be like a stress behavior,
yes, yes.
either a cultural behavior, a stress behavior, or something that was like learned or perhaps rewarded in past context. And also when you took the other assessment, how many years ago was that?
That's another thing, it was in 2020, uh,
Okay.
so that was 5 years ago.
Well, we all had a lot going on in 2020.
Exactly, exactly, and I living in New York City in the midst
Oh my
of
god,
the
in
pandemic,
2020.
it
Mm-mm.
was pretty intense, and there is a
Yes.
lot of, like moral things, say sense of like safety, like all of that. So I could see that was a really unique time to
Sure.
take the assessments.
Well,
Yeah.
and a traumatizing time, and it makes sense a time to learn and perhaps, I think that's interesting, in your own reflection looking back, perhaps 1 or 2 is what you needed
Yeah.
Or what I found with a lot of sevens that I ended up meeting or working with during COVID is they didn't feel right about their seven shining
Mm,
because feeling that exuberance and that sense of levity and that kind of push it, to say push away the pain sounds harsh. I mean, the nicer word for it is positive outlook. It's just the point is like a seven's going to go bright side almost every time, even in the darkest moment. And so there were a lot of sevens who were trying to actively like turn that down and be supportive during
yeah.
COVID.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like during the time of mourning,
Hmm.
and to be kind of like have a happier outlook feels like tone deaf, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I think was going on in 2022 is a huge like Asian hate.
Yes.
So that was also there too. And then I think my pivot in my coaching business as well. So I think there is a several huge components.
Hmm.
Um, and my relationship to two is like, sure, like I may have shared that with you before, but my Hogan assessment with altruism scores the highest, like
Yes.
maxed out on altruism,
Sure.
which I kind of see similar to type 2 with
Mhm.
helping others and all of that stuff. It just
Yep.
feels like part of my DNA.
Yeah, absolutely. And 7 and 2 is a common mistyping. And
Oh,
then though you scored highest on the self-preservation instinct, I believe your social is next. And social sevens are, yeah, social sevens are the, oh no, social is your lowest, but they're kind of considered a count. I believe they're the counter type and they're often confused with twos as well. So,
mm,
there's parallels and that the idea of the integrative Enneagram is like they're all within us, but at the
yeah.
same time, when I was taught with the Enneagram, the person who taught me said it's like Nordstrom Rack and you try whatever on, but like when it fits, it should fit. And it should fit you on your days where like, these are the jeans that I don't really want to wear. Like these are also my good jeans, right? Like there should be a kind of coming home with your type that I see with your reactions to this report that
Yeah.
maybe before when you're kind of like, I feel like a lot of people who are like, Enneagram, I took the test. Um, that's more, it may just not be their jam, but it's often they're more commonly mistyped because they haven't found their home yet.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So I'm happy to to dig in a little bit more wherever you want to go. Are there particular areas or questions that you wanted to start with?
Yeah, so I would love to hear your share, but
Mhm.
one thing that I would also say is around avoiding pain.
Mhm.
Maybe that's where I had a little bit of resistance.
Sure.
Actually, because I have been in a lot of the grieving process in the past 2 years since my beloved Pitbull Prince passed.
Sorry.
Oh, thank you. And maybe dog lovers and dog parent could relate, but it's been
Yeah.
really devastating. So
Yeah.
a lot of it is just really working through it and then just like
Sure.
really embracing that. This is why when I read that, I'm like, that's not true. That's not true.
Mhm.
But if I just kind of like let that be of like, that's not true. And
Mhm.
then think about, okay, avoiding pain. Okay, I can kind of see that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was sort of like the process with this particular point that felt like I wanted to argue with.
Sure. Yeah. And that's okay. Hey, this with the seven, your eight wing is right there. We're going to push. We're going to push on that. And there's that kind of assertive drive. And eight was also your action style. So they're like, is this true? Do I believe this? That kind of push against. What I would say is what I would offer is instead of looking at is it true or not true, is that a default behavior? Because
Mm,
more than likely you in your personal development, in your professional development, in who you are, and you're continuing to be better and strive for more, you have likely adapted and made an intentional focus. But your default, if you weren't paying attention or you weren't looking or you were under stress, your default would be that potentially be that avoidance.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not that you can't or you don't. It's more like what are the core defaults? So for example, for myself, like eights are guarded. So there's just an auto guard. They're not even doing it on purpose. It's just kind of it's the idea of there's all this armor over a sensitive heart. And what's interesting for me as the counter type, I realize how I'm guarded sometimes is actually not guarding over my sensitivity with scoring high with the two, like you do. Is some of it's guarding over like my full power and like aggression and ability because it's like I don't want to steamroll people. People have a negative off. A lot of times people have a horror story about an eight. An unhealthy eight is a terror. So, but what I realize is it's the same thing. It's still a guard. I'm still guarded. Can I trust this person? Do I trust this person to handle the full extent of me? And, so you can't take the guards off an eight. It's just kind of like working with that. So in the spirit of with the seven, knowing that you're gonna look at the bright side and gonna look at the fun side, which I mean I prefer too, but the seven wing is strong within me. Um, Also just making sure that you are making space for it, and then also how you potentially hold space for others who are not gonna look at that bright side.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my take on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
Yeah. Some of the keywords that I picked up, like freedom,
Mhm.
variety, um, yeah, I did resonate with a lot of it. Vision is very important. Ironically, one thing that I didn't quite resonate with or associate myself with is enthusiastic. And maybe
Okay.
it's just the word that, yeah, there are moments that I feel really excited, inspired, but maybe that's just the word that I don't really use for
Mhm.
myself. So it's almost like I had to familiarize myself of like, what do they mean by
Mhm.
enthusiastic?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
What's a word you do resonate with?
wonder, awe,
Mm,
inspiration,
yeah.
curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are all 7 words. Yeah, it's just a different flavor of it. And then I also wonder too, sometimes, I have that reaction to the word fun. Like on Hogan, I score like hedonism and commerce, like what, like, And it's funny because hedonism such has such a negative connotation, but it's the 7 within me because I'm like, yeah, if we're not having fun, we're not making money, like what are we doing here, people? Come on now. And but when people ask, like, what are you doing for fun? I don't know. There's something about the word that doesn't really match, even though I'm all about that buoyancy, that lightness, that exuberance, the vitality. Like I so resonate with that range of word, but there's something around the word fun that I'm just like, it's not my word.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And
Mm,
when I worked in advertising, it was a really, really high pressure, high demand environment. And then to be a creative uh,
mhm.
in that space was like pretty hardcore. But then what people would typically say is like, have fun with it.
Yeah.
And that used to be so like, oh, don't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and it's as here's the thing. As an assertive type, which one and two are not considered assertive types, but seven is considered an assertive type. I do think sometimes when we have negative reactions, we will stand or push against them. And I think sevens do it in a way that's more socially acceptable. Like threes are focused on achievement and people appreciate that. Sevens are so fun, it's hard to like get mad at them, even if they're like, oh, we're going over here and we're doing this. Eights don't really care if you're mad because they're like, I'm going this way and you can come help me with this or not, or I'm going through you. So I do think some of even that push, not that you wouldn't have your strong convictions and sense of self, regardless of what your type is, but some of the like, don't label me also relates to the fact that sevens like to have freedom.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that really actually landed. You
Okay.
know, I still have a problem calling myself a coach after all these years.
Okay, MCC. Right?
I still have that debate
Yeah.
every day on the way to my goats.
Wow.
It's so
Every day.
crazy. It's so crazy. Yeah. Because I think I also have this tendencies to pick a profession that's like, for the lack of better word, like more than profession.
Mm,
Like art director, which is my former profession, was part of my being.
hmm
And I associate it with it so much that it took me so long to de-identify and then kind of reintegrate as like creative part is important part of me, but not all of it.
mm,
And then with coaching, because it's so close to like the mindset or having the tools or the coach part is so big in me, and there is always that little coach in me, then sometimes it's really annoying that I was starting to feel like, you know what, I am identifying it way too much of
mm,
being a coach. So I need to step back and then kind of have it be a part of me out of all the parts that I have, but not all of it.
mhm.
So even with those labels or titles, like I constantly have internal debate because I don't
Okay.
want to be limited to just that.
Yeah. And then looking at it from an Enneagram lens, knowing that seven resonated, the quote unquote avoidance of pain, some of it is the avoidance of being trapped or being limited.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's really just, you choose the labels for yourself. You choose if or when you want them. And then you're done. Variety, spice of life, like try to move on. And obviously like the art director, your roles have been very important part of your lives and part of you, but it does seem that when it feels like there's a way that it feels like it's too much, and then I don't know if you use the word stifling or if that's just what it's coming up for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, to like, and so they're kind of like push against, so it's not stifling. What happens when you push against that?
That's a really good question. Um, so I don't know if this is answering your question directly, but what's
That's
coming
fine.
up for me is
Yeah.
like maybe without one is what comes up, like sense of perfectionism, sense
Okay.
of like rules, and I start to get really serious. I think when I'm at my best, I'm like funny, I hope.
You are.
Funny,
Yeah.
and like there is a lightness. I can always seek some type of fun or wonder or awe in my life. But when I get to that point of like feeling stifled or cornered or whatever it is, then I get really serious.
hmm
Um, some might call me a little intimidating.
hmm
So I think I get into that space of like just like taking things so seriously.
Sure. Okay. So the one for you is it's too tight.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, or it sound, I mean, that's my interpretation. And so then it also makes sense that in New York City in 2020, it also makes sense that, like, I mean, we were all feeling that. So it also makes sense that that's how you scored as well. And probably like, how do I help? How do I help in this uncertain time? So,
Yeah.
how do I do the right thing and how do I help people? Of course, that was turned up while we were sheltered in place and didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, because navigating two layers, right? Like wanting to help people and then also feeling helpless. And
hmm
then also, I mean, you should have seen me going to grocery shopping in New York City. It was like so crazy. Like even, I don't know if you did it yourself, but coming back from, first of all, like all of that potential danger that was
Yeah.
like, there or not, but then coming back and then like disinfecting every single item and all of that
Yes.
stuff. It was just like, yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. Well, but also there you look at the benefit of the one is that that disinfectant potentially kept you out of, because a client of mine, like there were like trucks of like, I don't know what they call it, but like essentially like the morgue trucks, like on his street
Yeah.
in New York. And so the trauma of that turned up that high. Yes, it might have been tight, but I also see like we all probably leaned more into that to be safe.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see other contexts where you see the benefit of the one? And the page to explore on that, I think it's either 23 or 15. We don't have to go to that one, but it'll talk about your I think it's 23. Yeah, so it's the stretch point. Yeah, so what's interesting is according to 7 is that engage with your stretch line when feeling stuck or stagnant to see your challenges differently. So it offers up the one as an outlet for you.
Mm.
So look within first for solutions, practice discipline for freedom, focus on getting the job done. We don't have to dig into those, but maybe offer that because it sounds like sometimes what'll happen is we'll naturally pick up the negative side of one of the other numbers, and there are the merits of the one there for you as well.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of the word like self-discipline,
Hmm.
accountable to commitments, stretching yourself to complete tasks. Yeah.
Well, but also looking at that and looking at the fact that I don't know what language you did your MCC in, but
Yeah.
yeah, talk
Yeah.
about commitment and discipline and
Yeah.
excellence. It's you're likely integrating, not that sevens can't do that as well, but you're integrating a lot of that to just even reach the level of accomplishment that you have.
I think I attribute that a lot to growing up in Japanese school system because
Hmm.
discipline is like, and then I also martial art was a big part of my upbringing when I
Hmm.
was a kid. I was really, really, really shy, and my parents got really worried that
Hmm.
like if she's this shy, how's she gonna navigate the world? So they basically threw me into a martial art school.
Hmm.
So that's what I did, and discipline is a huge part of it.
Hmm.
So I don't see myself struggling too much with
Hmm.
discipline or even following through on tasks. I don't tend to procrastinate. I think I have the other problem of being a workaholic or overworking, even though I'm actively working on that. Um, so yeah, but I could see how some parts of self-discipline, especially around like working out. I mean, talk about 5:30 in the morning workout classes, like not something that I would ever do. So yeah, like things like that I could see. Yeah.
Yeah, but the goats get that discipline from you.
Because they're joy, right? Because they're
Yes,
fun and
which
it's
makes sense. But what an interesting relationship that when it comes to like 5:30 in the morning, you'll do it for joy. And that, I mean, but that feeds, I always say like you have to feed the 7 or it's going to feed itself. Right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually, when I know that I'm going to go through a stressful period,
Mm-hmm.
I actively schedule like shows,
Mm,
like, going to Lincoln Center or Broadway shows or classical concerts, whatever it is. Like, I make sure to put those things during that time,
yeah.
sustain myself. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I do the same thing with the ocean and with my workouts. I'll double and like there was a season last year where I got into a couple triples because I was like, well, all that's in my control is how much I work out. So we're just going again. But
Yeah.
the difference is so 7 is a head type. So very focused on ideas, possibilities, more prone to anxiety. But when you hop over to the 8, it's a body type. So when the body types are in their body, they're best aligned with their intuition. There's a lot coming up for you, it looks like.
Yeah. That's wow. That's interesting. It's really helpful with how you're explaining with like 7 would be blah 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 and then 8 would be because it kind of highlights the contrast.
Mm-hmm. And
And
that's your wing, and you also scored as like you scored higher in 8 than the other body types.
oh, okay. So I
Mm-hmm.
have so you're saying I have some of that too?
Yeah, you have some of it too. Yeah. You're
Oh,
coming at it from a different angle. Like you and I enter from a different door, but we potentially enter the same room from that door, from a different door.
huh, that's
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we just hang out. It's a fun room.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
never thought of myself as like a head type. Uh,
Okay.
but it does make sense. And the one of the criteria for those shows, if you will,
Yeah.
is the sense of inspiration. So
Yes.
I mean, I don't know who does, but I don't go to a show to just for the sake of it or because
Mhm.
it's popular kind of thing. But I like to feel connected to, for the lack of better word, like human potential.
Yeah.
Be like, holy moly, like they're humans and they can do that, and that's amazing. Like
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
space. Yeah.
Possibility. It sounds like it's inspiration, but it's also I mean shows. Like there's an exuberance, there's a fun there, it's a dose of what's possible, and there's a levity and a lightness to them.
Yeah, even if the topic is heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like Hadestown. Oh, that's a beautiful show.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, see it.
Yeah, I will.
See
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it's the just the performance and the artistry, and it's probably also blending the artistry, but then also the soulfulness. It's beautiful.
Wow. Yeah. I will
Hmm.
check it out.
Yeah. But when you were talking about shows and like kind of intellectual things, like to me, I think of Hamilton, right? Because the words are so fast that sometimes people don't understand what's going on, but there's so much history and there's so much happening. But that's an example of, you can go for the experience, but the more you know about the history and the music and the things like that, it's the lean into the head type.
Yeah, and that's definitely part of it because it's like I learned things that I didn't know about, and then like researching that, or like it's almost like following the thread. I'm doing this like I'm digging sweet potato
Hmm.
out of the dirt, right? And then that discovery factor is like so much fun for me too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also we haven't talked about the 5. So the other type that's on that page 23 is type 5. So
Mhm.
one of the things to think about too is that with 7, 5 and 1 are like a three-legged stool. So it's the idea that these whatever is on your kind of lines, as they call it, is very different from us, but at the same time it can be kind of a release point, or sometimes we go there to stress. So we talked a bit about 1, but another thing for you to think about is your depth of knowledge and your cultivation of resources. Some of the sageness, some of the sheer just like wit and intellectual curiosity. Feeding those parts of you can also feed you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's part of the reasons why the parts that I enjoyed working in advertising
Mhm.
is I have so many different range of clients from like just different industry, different type of products, services, and then each time through briefs and talking with clients, like I would learn about different industries. And that was definitely one of the key points that I enjoyed. Yeah. And then similar now, totally different role, but still getting to learn about different professions and their struggles, challenges, and, things like that. And that's really interesting to me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things, I don't know that I've ever said this phrase before, but it's almost like learn your way out. So if and when you're feeling limited or stressed or just not feeling it, that whether it's moving towards learning as a kind of exuberant activity, or moving towards learning because it gives you new options and you're able to escape, not in a negative way, but just kind of, thinking about like self-care is often like related to kind of, how do we escape? How do we let go? For you, it might actually be when you tap into that five, it could potentially be very deep intellectual pursuits, but at the same time, it could be like your candy. I'll hit the romance novels, you hit the research books. Like we'll both be good.
That's yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting because I think I may have shared before, but I am interested in doing this research about like how different languages affect coaching processes or experiences.
Hmm.
But I haven't quite dove in because there is a doubt about myself. It's like, well, is it too intellectual? Is it gonna be fun for me? Of course, there's that word again, right? And is
Yeah.
it, am I gonna be stuck in this deep, like a lot of data? Um, but hearing you say that about like intellectual activities helps me to reframe a little bit. Not that I need to be committed to that research project, but with that sense of doubt a little bit, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, the interesting thing about fives, so the fives in my life, oh, they're so insightful. They're like the narrators. They just their way to access information and the way that they share information. But what's interesting, some of about the type, because we all have our own like hiccups and fixes and vulnerabilities and stuff. They often feel like they don't have enough information, which is ironic because they usually have more information than everyone else. But
Right.
it's part of the food, just how the seven wants options and exuberance and exploration. The five is looking for like, how do I continue to learn and have more and more information so that I have all the resources that I need?
Mm.
So some of what you're talking about, almost the like, who am I to say? I hear the one a little bit. Will it be too stifling or limiting? I hear the seven, but the kind of, the honoring of the intellectual pursuit that feels vast, I think some of that is just you truly like tapping into the part of yourself that has that five within you, that has that deep intellectualism to also know that like, you know, you could spend however much time and it's not like it's going to be exhausted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a little bit like my fantasy
Hmm.
is sometimes I say to myself like, "Oh, I wish I could just have like a endless time to
Hmm.
just pursue my curiosity and do
Hmm.
research and synthesize ideas and things like that."
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I catch myself thinking that sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it might be something like with the shows that you want to strategically or intentionally feed. Because often what'll happen in the Enneagram lines, so the wings are kind of like our neighbors. One of your neighbors has power and one of your neighbors has anxiety. Right? Like anxiety and power mixed. But I mean that's an oversimplification of the sixes. The sixes are so loyal, but
Yeah.
also, it's their ability to risk mitigate is unparalleled. And so what's fascinating is six. So this is where it's page 15. It has your wings on it. The six's ability to risk mitigate versus the seven's ability to see possibility. It's such an interesting, like different side of the coin.
Yeah.
Whereas on the eight side, you're going to have more kind of like power assertion that if unchecked becomes like aggression or like a push away from vulnerability. So I often say like one of your neighbors have sugar and one has spice. Both of your neighbors are kind of spicy, right? You got some spicy neighbors, but your wings are right there. But in the lines, in the spirit of the lines, I think oftentimes the the lines will happen to us. Like the more that I learn about the twos that I work with and twos that are in my life, the more I realize how much I integrate my line to two. Because I'm like, oh my God, like they understand this. They understand this about me. And I didn't realize how much of it was two. And I actually pushed away the twos. The irony was not lost on me that I, as like the mean type, was like pushing away against the nice type. But at the same time, what I was pushing away from was an over integration within myself. So I share all that to say one of the things to think about is just if or when or how you maybe strategically feed that curiosity or that possibility for exploration.
Yeah.
At times, as a seven, you may get lost in the possibility, but when you're tapping into your five, exploring all the possibilities is its own kind of fuel and revitalization. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to commit to an action.
Yeah, and I would imagine that would feel grounding.
Mhm.
Yeah, because possibilities, yes, but then sometimes it just feels like a peer.
Mhm.
Whereas like even hearing about your five energy just like felt like really nice balance of like grounding too. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, good. Yeah, and so the way so it's tri-type is a patented term. So in the report, it just talks about feeling centers of expression. So your centers of expression, your thinking style is like a seven, looking at all the according to this report, looking at all the possibilities. Your action style is that of an eight. So when it's time for you to make action, you're going to take intuitive action. You're going to go with it and you're going to have a level of assertion. You won't necessarily see the assertion, but like people saying that they find you intimidating, that's very common for the assertive types. And then the feeling center is around the two. How do I help? How do I support? How do I anticipate people's needs? And your kind of stacking of those centers of expression was feeling first. So people likely experience you as a warm person. They see the two within you. Then the seven, so the thinking style, and then action. So that looks into ready, aim, fire, which I say, that's how the phrase goes. But what's funny is in the other ones I've done of these, sometimes it'll be like fire, aim, ready. And people will be like, oh yeah, that's me. Right. So it's funny because that phrase is just really like, you know, um, I just spoke to someone who was it's fire first and then it was aim and then ready came last and they were like, oh yeah, that is very much me. So it's like that particular one, it can seem like it has a right because of the way the phrase goes, but you're getting a lot of feeling information and you're very acknowledging of the world around you and when you're thinking about those possibilities, but then also your action style is like and then you've aggregated enough information or you just know whether or not you had information and you're going to move forward decisively with that.
I just want to say, like, I'm having these moments of like when sometimes somebody, whatever assessment it is,
Mhm.
somebody who's incredibly skilled in debriefing, it feels like a psychic reading. A psychic reading I never had, right? It's like psychic reading that I would imagine it to be like a right on.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of having that moment right now because I was a little bit confused about like people tend to, it seems that receive me as a warm and friendly person. And
Yep.
I see that. But then a lot of the times, like especially after meetings, I might say something and then I get a lot of private messaging after saying like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for saying that, asking that question. I appreciate your directness and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, when was I direct? When did I do this thing that people are commenting on? Um, and especially lately, like I'm getting a lot of feedback from my community saying like they appreciate my directness and honesty. And I was like, well, what does that mean? Warm, friendly, direct, honest, and not that all of them cannot coexist at all, but I
Mhm.
was just trying to like wrap my head around it. But then your debrief just now is like, ah, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Good. Good. Yeah. So, and we're the same tri-type and actually the same stack. So we're going to lead with the warmth, but then also right after that warmth, we're double assertive. And then that double assertive also, the eights have that kind of intuitive presence, charisma, power, but sometimes can scare people off. the sevens have an exuberance of fun and a way to kind of like it almost I feel like it balances the magnetism of the eight because the magnetism and the eight people are sometimes drawn in, but almost like drawn in like a predator, right? Like it's like, oh my goodness, am I gonna be okay? Like, how's this going? Right? Where sevens are just like you want to like go be where the sevens are because they're just having more fun than anyone else. So I think you're just being you. You're just authentically being you and just speaking your truth. But it doesn't surprise me that like people sense the warmth, but then also you're not necessarily actively thinking about how do I show up powerfully. You just do.
Mm.
And so when you're just like, hey, this question has been unanswered, or I have a question about this, and then also having been in environments with you, your phrasing is very approachable. So often people will challenge, and the way that they challenge, you're just like, you really didn't have to say it that way. Like, you didn't have to get everybody's backs up before you asked it that way. And so your delivery is very appreciative, it's very approachable, but then also like you are calling it like it is, but I think in a way that is more palatable.
Yeah, I actually, that's an intentional practice
Mhm.
because I navigated in a lot of space with conflict,
Yeah.
and calling people out doesn't always get you what needs to be accomplished.
Yep.
So neutrality, and also through application of MCC, was a really, really helpful practice,
Yeah.
because dialogue matters so much to me. And if
Yeah.
it's being shut down because people were triggered or activated or whatever it is, then to me, that's not a mission accomplished.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do work on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you have worked on that and it's coming through. And also the thing is with scoring high in both 2 and 7, that's a double positive outlook. So you're also able to, that was what was interesting to me. The first time I was promoted as a manager in my organization, it was during a time of change and it was not a happy time. And I watched people say things I agreed with and get blacklisted. But
Mm.
then I was able to say those things and impact change. And I was like, oh, how I said it and being able to say it in a positive context, being able to say it in a way that people can hear, like it makes a tremendous difference. But that's something so often with our strengths, like we can't even see them because it's just our norm. And then when we're interacting with others in the world, we're like, why did that happen? Like, why did you do it that way? But it's that they're coming in with different strengths and different challenges.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Good.
yeah.
Well, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad for you to feel seen and heard because that's really the hope. That's really the hope on this journey is that it can support you like where you are and also that you're able to take it back to who you've been. And my hope as well is that you'll be able to look at it in kind of where you're going as well.
Yeah, I actually absolutely loved it
Good.
this I would say this time. I'm curious to continue like reading up on it and all the, I think it's particularly five, which was kind of
Mhm.
like a new element that was
Yeah.
in this now. Um, and reading more about these each types, the wings, and then what do you call it? The
Lines. Hmm.
lines, and what that means. Like this was really, really helpful. Like great psychic reading.
Yeah. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Anything else you'd like to share in closing?
Yeah, I just want to give you the hearts.
Oh, thank you. I
You
receive
do.
and
Thank
return
you.
return hearts to you. Thank you.
Yeah. Seriously, like I feel like you've been so generous in a way that feels like really meaningful. And even with the suggestion of exploring this, it just felt like a super right time, kind of thing. So it's definitely helpful in terms of navigating my next step and, creating that vision forward. So I really, really appreciate you.
I'm so glad. It's mutual.
Aw. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.